believe there's nothing good coming out of your life, I have good news. He raised from the dead and gave us His Spirit. And you can have that same Spirit raise you up to life too. And God can take anything, even a dead thing, even a thing that could be thrown in the fire. He can take it and He can do what only God can do to it. Amen?
Amen.
You know, during these times of Easter, you know, you don't really have to pray about what you're going to preach today. I don't know if y'all ever thought that, but when you go to church, everybody's preaching on the resurrection. Because it's the resurrection. It's Resurrection Sunday. So I started to ask, really just as I was meditating for today, God began to remind me of the power of remembrance. Everybody say remember. There's a power when you remember. I was on a flight back this week from Tennessee, and we were talking about things. We were talking about our childhood. And I remember when I was about 10 or 11, my parents, we grew up in South Texas, so they would take me and a friend and my brothers and sisters, and they would take us to Corpus Christi on the seawall. Come on, y'all know anybody from Corpus? No? Okay. You gotta go. And he would rent a motel. Not a hotel. You know, the motel. You know, the doors go to the outside. You're not in a high rise. And but they had a pool and a motel. And when I was remembering and telling the story, something on the inside of me, I felt so good. It just took me to those days when it was so simple. And I remember those were memories, they're core memories in my life that remind me of, I get a good feeling. Does anybody ever have a memory of getting a good, I know you got memories that give you bad feelings, but let's shelf those for today and let's think positive. Anybody in here, you know, when you can think of a time that you just felt something and you remember and you feel it again. And you're like, man, what was it? They were asking me on the ride, my friends were saying, hey, what is it that makes you feel so good? And I really couldn't put my finger on it. Was it with my family? Was it because it was my friends? It was all about me? It was a swimming pool. You know, I revisited that place not too long ago, and I drove by it, and it's nothing that you'd be like, wow. It was just a motel with a swimming pool. Remembering. Made me think about how I remember when I met my wife. I remember a lot of things that we did. We did a wedding yesterday, and we were driving around a lot, and so we were talking, we were remembering, right? Some things good, some things not good, but we focused on the good. It's marriage advice 101 right now. There's a power to that. Then we started talking about our kids. We started remembering our kids. Y'all remember when your kid was born and you held them for the first time? And there's just something about that remembrance, like you just remember, like, wow. And now, my oldest is 29, and I think, wow, I remember holding her on my chest, laying on the couch, right? How many of you parents know you need to remember that sometimes?
Amen.
Huh? Because they're going to take you to places that you'll be like, I need to remember her as a baby. Is that too real for Sunday morning Easter? But you know, as parents, you know, we've seen them when they needed us so much. Remembrance. There's a power to it. And one of the things that the Lord showed me was that Easter was about remembrance. It's remembering. See, He's already resurrected. So what we're doing in here today, when we read the story, when we go revisit what He did, is we're remembering some key things, because when we remember some key things, it empowers us to keep moving forward with Christ. If you're in here today and you know Jesus, you gave your life to Jesus and you're a believer, sometimes you need to remember yourself. Throughout the Old Testament, when God would do something great in the life of the Israelites, they would build altars. And those altars were there to serve for generations to come. To do what? To remember what God had done. The most important thing that I can remember is what He did for me.